So the idea was this, that I wanted to be able to focus on these sort of skills. I wanted to strip away all of the other stuff, right? I wanted to see, all right, so without any of the other stuff, without any mechanics, without any game, so to speak, what can we do when it's just us and the story? That was sort of the idea. So the rules were, from the beginning, 3 rules, right? First, no GM. So we would do it as a sort of turn-taking, scene setting thing, like I like to do in a lot of games.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Second, no mechanics. So like we've talked about. So I didn't say no rules.
Right.
Obviously, there are always rules, but there are no mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care to define the term, but it's no dice, numbers, etc.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Everyone knows.
I'm forced to put it in my own terms in a minute or two. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third bit was no prep, which was not necessarily critical to the thing that we were going to do, but which was exciting to me and made it harder. So when I say no prep, that means we don't, before the game, we don't talk about characters, we don't talk about the setting, we don't talk about the situation, we don't talk about like, all right, so I have this character and then there's a conflict between none of that.
Right.
So when we set the first scene, we have no idea. We do allow us one thing, and that is to set a genre, right? So we say, all right, let's play fantasy, or I like pirates, let's do pirates. Mm-hmm. So we have some sort of shared expectation. But beyond that, when the first scene is set, nobody has any idea who the characters are. We just set a scene with characters. Maybe these turn out to be the main characters. Maybe we change it midway. Who knows? And then as we have been gaming, as we've been trying this concept and this way of playing, a fourth one has sort of appeared organically, which is no character monogamy, right? No character ownership.
Yes, I remember you mentioned that. Yes.
Yeah, so there is no difference between a player and a non-player character.
Right.
There are just characters. Mm-hmm. We do have ownership in the scene.
Right.
So if I play a character in the scene, you don't jump in and start saying what this person does, because I'm playing this person in this scene. But then I cut this scene. It's your scene. You set a new one, and now you want to play that character.
Right.
That is fine.
Right.
Those are the 4 sort of rules or guidelines for the form that we use, sort of. I call this GMless freeform, and of course that is a vague term, but I think it applies.
It can mean whatever you want it to mean, and since you are coming up with the procedures beforehand, now we know what it means here, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I have questions. First of all, have you had, if we have 19 sessions, does that mean 19 separate fictional events, or has any gone from session to session? Let's keep going, and you continue with what happened last time.
Right. So because we have an open group, right? We don't know beforehand generally what is who is going to turn up. We haven't done that, so we have only done one shots. Okay. So only self-contained stories.
It makes it easier for analysis, but it also is a little. You can probably see why I would be interested if you did, because then the question about whether more rules and specifications or even instrumentation might get adopted into that particular stream of events, right?
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting thing to do, maybe, especially now that we've sort of nailed the format.
Right.
But we have a different part that we haven't talked about, which is the theme of the session.
Mm-hmm.
So the first session we did, it was just to try out this format, right? It was just, can we play like this? Will we get a good, interesting story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because we hadn't done it before, so we wanted to try it, right? And it worked. We had fun. We did a pirate game. And from then on, each session we have had a theme. I don't think we need to talk about how we choose a theme, but we have a list, and each time we pick a theme that we are going to do for the session. So the themes can be very broad or quite specific. So some examples we have had genres. So we had a theme of fantasy, for example. We had a theme of surrealism.
So by theme, you are talking effectively as aesthetic context of some kind.
In this case,
okay,
right? In fantasy, surrealism, that is sort of aesthetic context. But other themes have been replaying the same scene several times. That has been a theme.
Okay,
right? Scene setting has been a theme. Characterization, right? How we play characters, that has been a theme. Or single protagonist, or flashbacks and flash forwards, or combat. We did combat. I really like that one.
That is great. Okay, so this is, as calling it free form is all well and good, and it's fun to say, but clearly we are talking about wonderfully structural, minimalist approach to structure so that we don't get distracted by everything. Right.
Yeah, something like that. Right. So the idea is to practice on things. So the themes are things we want to explore, things we want to practice, and we always start the session with talking about the theme and discussing it. We tried to start by half an hour, but nowadays it tends to go to about an hour. But we don't go above an hour. Like if we've been talking about it for an hour, we say, all right, let's screw this. Let's actually do it. Let's actually game.
That's actually important right there. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we, in this prep, so this is prep, but we're not prepping situation, right? And characters and so on. But we are talking about what techniques would we like to explore, what is interesting about this theme. So for example, when we were talking about combat, so we had a theme of combat, I selected that theme because I was interested when we have no mechanics to say who wins, right? We have no skills. We have no, how good am I at swinging a sword? We have none of that. How can we do combat in this context, right? How can we do interesting fighting? So we talked about, for example, how do we decide who wins in this case? We talked about what makes combat interesting in a story. What kinds of do we have examples from fiction of where combat serves the story? Right? Can we use combat to explore or display the characters and their motivations, personalities, and so on? And how do we make it sort of aesthetically interesting? So we talked about describing the feeling instead of just describing the blows, because role-playing games are not graphical. So going all of I chop from above, and then he ducks and he walks to the side and he parries with his shield. And we tried to work more with sort of how does it feel in this combat? I am winded. I am hurt, so every move hurts a lot. I try to feel my opponent, but he pushes toward that sort of emotional.
There's two interesting,
context, right?
Yeah, yes. As a response to that, I think that we have both been in situations where the formal techniques of play are extremely numerical and do not call for much embellishment or justification or follow-up. Right, so you take in the game of Gamma World, using the 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition rules that I just played in for quite a while. If you took hit points that were kind of in your median range, right, you're far away from full up, but you're far away from zero. You're taking hit points in that median range. the system attempts to make it interesting by having a median point called bloodied, which has rules effects. So the middle range of your hit points isn't boring. And with that present, it was very easy to take 6 hit points of damage, and you would see players, myself included, grunt, right, for their character.
Right.
And say, ouch. And you can see it's not just in that game. You can see that across lots of games, and you say, look at what people are doing. They are taking, it's not obligatory by the game rules to do that, but they are playing how it feels to have taken that damage. And whether they are saying ouch from a player point of view of, oh no, I might lose my character, or if they're saying ouch from the character's point of view of, oh no, my rib hurts. I don't care. Those are actually a lot closer, in their nature than
and it is maybe a point of the system to bring those together.
I completely agree. And so it's I am pleased to see it investigated, because I know that happens. If you have a very quantitative system, you can see people doing that, sometimes far over and above what is required, or the game designers may even have expected. In the game Champions, there is no long-term effects of damage, no ongoing effects of damage. And we often observed that nobody harms a character and their options worse than the player of that character. So, you have taken this guy, they have this sort of superficial damage, and then they have this very structural damage in the game. And so if the character has taken some structural damage, there are no formal game effects, but you will see players literally reducing their character's movement rate. They can go that far by the rules, but they say, I just took 5 body damage. There's no way I can make it, right? I'm not going to play. I give myself a movement penalty, period, right? And you see people do that all the time. So it's, in that case, what you were investigating is, hey, let's find out what is that, right? What is that people are doing? Yeah. And
that's absolutely part of it. Yeah. So and that's just obviously this is just examples from one of them. The point is we talk about what makes this interesting, right? What tools do we have? What techniques can we use? So we don't do mechanics, but we do a lot of techniques.
I hear you.
Which the sort of non-rigorous definition I have is sort of mechanics are obligatory, techniques are voluntary. They're things I want to do, I like to do it, I want to try this, right? So when we did, so for example, here's a good example. We did scene setting, right? That was the theme. We talked about it before, and we had this scene. We had just had a scene where we're doing a sort of sword and planet kind of thing, and this proud warrior had just been in this big arena fight, right? And we cut the scene before we knew how the fight ended, but we knew that he had been drinking the forbidden earth essence or something like that. I don't quite remember, but it was a strong, potent, but dangerous thing that he had been.
You are speaking my language in terms of idiom here, so I know exactly what. Of course, he did.
Yeah, exactly, right? So after that, Joel would set the scene. He set the scene, and he said, "All right, so here's how I want to do this scene, right? I will play this warrior, right, the day after the combat. I am going to play how he wakes up and moves around the room, right? And then I want you guys to, as he walks around, remembering the night before, I want you guys to insert words, only nouns and noun phrases from last night, right? From the combat as they well up,